Good morning. Today I would like to bring a new concept to your life. The concept is word walker. The most important thing we could do is to hear the word of God and to walk in it. But the strange thing is we don't always do that. We tend to look at the wind and the weather and make decisions made upon a prediction from the pit of hell, our feelings instead of our faith. We do what Solomon wrote in the book of Ecclesiastes 11 verse 4. He who watches the wind, waiting for all conditions to be perfect, will not sow, and he who looks at the clouds will not reap a harvest. We are wind watchers instead of word walkers. Now the word of God does not have an expiry date. No matter how long we have to wait for it to come to pass, one thing we can be very sure of, it will come to pass. The word of God is very true and faithful. An example from the Bible to prove this point we find in Matthew 14. It is the story of the disciples in the middle of the storm. Not there by accident though. No, Jesus sent them there himself. Now why would he do something like that? Could it maybe be that whatever was blowing against them was not strong enough to defeat them? Yes, and maybe it's true for you in your life too, in my life too, that whatever is blowing against us this day is not strong enough to defeat us. The word has already been spoken over our life, even before we were born. In Psalm 139 verse 16 we find these words, "Your eyes have seen my unformed substance, and in your book were written all the days that were appointed for me, when as yet there were not one of them taken place." Isn't that encouraging to know that God has known every day of your life before you were born? So the story in Matthew 14 is so profound. Let's read it from verse 22 to 33. Immediately he directed the disciples to get into the boat and go ahead of him to the other side of the Sea of Galilee. And while he sent the crowds away. He had dismissed the crowds, and after he had dismissed the crowds, he went up on the mountain by himself to pray. When it was evening, he was there alone, but the boat by this time was already in the middle of the sea, a long distance away from land, tossed and battered by the waves, for the wind was against them. And in the fourth watch of the night, between 3 and 6 a.m., Jesus came to them walking on the sea. And when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were terrified and said, "It is a ghost." And they cried out in fear. But immediately he spoke to them, saying, "Take courage, it is I, do not be afraid." And Peter replied to him, "Lord, if it is really you, command me to come to you on the water." And he said, "Come." So Peter got out of the boat and walked on the water and came toward Jesus. But when he saw the effects of the wind, he was frightened, and he began to sink, and he cried out, "Lord, save me." Immediately Jesus extended his hand and caught him, saying to him, "O you of little faith, why did you doubt?" And when they got into the boat, the wind ceased. Then those in the boat worshipped him with awe-inspired reverence, saying, "This is truly the Son of God." Isn't that inspiring? Knowing that when Jesus is going to get into your boat, the wind will cease. The wind may be against you, but the word, which is Jesus himself, has spoken over your life. So in the battle between the wind and the word of God, who will win? There is no doubt, according to the word of God. He is able and he is willing. In Psalms 46 verse 1 to 3 we find these words, and let it be an encouragement to you today. God is our refuge and strength and mighty and impenetrable help, a very present and well-proven help in trouble. Therefore we will not fear. Though the earth should change, and though the mountains be shaken and slip into the heart of the seas, through its waters roar and foam, though the mountains tremble at its roaring, we will not be afraid. May you know today that in the battle that is waging against you, that the word will win for you, because it's already been spoken over your life a long time ago, before the foundation of the world has been laid. Have a lovely day.